Hi everybody, welcome to episode 29 of A Fern Between Us.
We are two of the four owners of Vivoc Winery. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Michelle. And today we are focusing not only on Chardonnay, but the movie Bottle Shock. So if you did your homework and rewatched it, awesome. If not, do you want to give a little synopsis of...
That was an awesome movie. I was so stoked. I actually didn't remember it being as good as it was. Basically, they call it the Judgment of 76?
76.
Where a wild guy came to California, took a handful of decent wines to be judged by Paris judges against the greatest in France. And the blind, and the U.S. won for the first time ever, and kind of blew the world away with that one. They were so pissed. I mean, they were seriously disgusted with not only themselves but everything about the whole situation.
And because the winning wine was Chateau Montelena, and that's really what the entire movie is about, is Chateau Montelena's story. We went ahead and got a bottle of Chateau Montelena. So this is not your everyday price range.
Yeah, how much does it cost, babe? I mean, you got a deal.
I did. I like to shop the deals. So it's $60 a bottle. Yeah. It is, on the spendy side. But because wineries give other wineries discounts, it's really awesome. I gotta say, that is a major perk. So a big fat discount made this more in the realm of reason, and yesterday was our anniversary, 16 years, so I thought we might as well splurge.
Cheers, babe.
But it's such an incredible wine, even at...
It is. We already started drinking about 3-4 minutes ago.
I mean, how can you wait?
And this is great. We're going to test it today against our Chardonnay, the Vivoc Chardonnay. So, Judgment and Dixon, or Judge...
Nice.
See what happens. We're not doing it blind, though, so I know which one to expect high things from.
That's really funny. So do you want to talk about the wines, or do you want to talk about the movie a little bit? Because there are actually a fact check kind of thing about the movie, which I thought was interesting.
Let's talk about the wine. Let's talk about the wines first.
Okay.
Let's talk about the wines first.
So we are sipping on the Chateau Montelena first, and we did have to compare to figure out which would be lighter. And...
I have not tasted mine yet.
Oh, okay. So I did.
Only tasted the Montelena so far.
I did it back and forth to decide tasting order.
Which is what are you getting here in the Chardonnay?
I get pear. I get some mineral, stone, kind of like wet stone.
I get the acidity and the creaminess on the palate to me is so beautiful and amazing. And when we actually went to Chateau Montelena back in 2000 and I don't know, when did you run a marathon? 14?
I don't know. It was really long ago.
We ran the Napa Valley Marathon and went to all these awesome wineries at the same time. But
that's the only way he could get me to run one.
But Montelena, we got to meet the winemaker. It was great. He was from Albuquerque, New Mexico. That was a lot of fun.
He's not there anymore, but at the time.
We were about the same age even, and we did some trade secrets and stuff like that until he realized he was divulging too much, and he quickly changed and said, "I'll give you a tour. Come on, let's go do a tour." We're not going to talk about that anymore. But anyway, ever since then, that's been my favorite Chardonnay in the world, is the Chateau Montelena. I mean, I haven't tasted all the breadth of French Chardonnays, and they are also incredible. But this is what I've always aspired our Chardonnay to be more like. And early on, I had to adjust lots of thinking about it and stuff like that. But
well, it tastes very much like Chablis from
the Montelena.
France. Yeah. Chablis from Burgundy, not Chablis as in jug wine, just to be clear.
Right.
All right. Oh, and
All right.
here's the comparison.
So now I'm on this one.
Ooh, the nose is pretty.
It is pretty. It's a lot fuller though, and it's
This is more peachy.
yeah, peachy. The acidity is kind of similar.
It's almost like
It tastes a little more warm weather to me than the Napa one.
and it smells a little bit like when you
Here's that 18.
go to the fair and you smell the sugar-coated almonds being roasted.
Oh yeah, and I can see that this was obviously blended with some southern grapes as well. It's not just the Abbott Chardonnay, and the Abbott Chardonnay would taste more like this, but this one has at least some component of non-Abbott Chardonnay, and
Abbott being our
Northern
third estate property up here. Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah,
of
it's much bigger. It's bolder.
and oddly lemony compared. It's very strange in a way.
Yeah, it's very bold.
I hadn't tasted that until I tasted it after the show.
I know. It really changed it, actually.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's part of the reason why you taste in tasting order, because if you taste out of tasting order, it can really throw off the next wine. So,
Now I'm going backwards.
yeah. So when you go backwards, so you miss so much.
Yeah. A whole bunch of the body's gone, and it smells sweeter. It smells like sweet floral as opposed
I was
to
just
any
gonna
of
say sweet floral.
any of the
Yeah.
fruity aspects.
Yeah.
So anyway, interesting. I like the way ours holds up on this one. I wish this was one of the northern ones though, because I feel like that would hold up better
And
against.
the problem
you know,
is that
the most world
you're
class wine.
right. I know. This was not very nice of me. Actually, this was a rough thing to do to a winemaker. And ours is 24 versus 60, so there's also some difference in that. And but I do think it holds up really nice, and we're eager to get that Abbott Chardonnay back, but another light year.
Right, 2020 is a no. 2019, I think. Do we have some of 2019? I think we do. Or did we go Abbott White last year? I can't remember, but I think there's some Chardonnay. I think there's an Abbott Chardonnay coming out at some point.
Oh, cool. Well, and
I think it'll
knowing
be
that then
fabulous.
2020 we didn't get one, so it's going to be a blend. Yeah.
Act fast. Although the blend is amazing as well. I mean, I don't know, but it's not specific Chardonnay or whatever or reason.
Well, I think it held up really well, and I like that. So Chardonnay is, of course, the most popular grape, which is pretty wild.
Tastes a little dreamsicle.
You like that description?
I do like that description when it suits, and it's something that I get. I grew up, the push-ups, the orange push-up or whatever, dreamsicle. That's what I. Dreamsicle has like a vanilla kind of
Inside, which is more creamy.
More creamy, and that kind of describes.
Well, if you're gonna.
Anyway, let's get on to nobody wants to see us taste stuff.
There's people that want to see us taste stuff. Okay, but so anyway, the movie. It's a great movie. I love this movie, actually. It's really entertaining. Everybody does a great job. It's beautifully shot. Great actors.
It's set in the 74, 75, 76. Actually, specifically 1976, but I think it's kind of leads up for a couple years, sort of there. And Napa Valley, Napa Sonoma, they remind me of all the winemakers I know here in New Mexico. They're a bunch of farmers and country guys, but really getting excited about making something good. Maybe for the first time, fun. Really, and en masse. I think they were all en masse trying to get better at the same time, which is kind of what we're doing right now. Yeah, and it's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
There had been some outliers, I'm sure, back in early 1900s even, but not the majority of them,
So anyway,
sorry.
So some of the little nuances. one of the really playful, fun things is that Jim, the owner of Chateau Montelena in the movie, and his son Beau box. That's how they work out their fights, and they're always boxing each other. And there's a boxing ring in the vineyard. That's not true.
That's not true, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so...
But I love the story.
I
There's
know!
some good
That was
Hollywood
really
there.
fun, right? And I was like, oh, well...
There's also no way that some 50-year-old dude's going to be boxing some
Well,
20-year-old
I did
surfer.
think that was
you know?
insane. I mean, I think that we're supposed to be like, oh, wow, what a badass.
He's
but...
been a tough guy. He's still a tough guy or whatever.
So the other thing is that even though Jim Barrett did end up owning Chateau Montelena, the winemaker that made the 73 that won at the Paris competition was actually Mike Gergich.
Gergich?
His name is
Maybe.
a little hard. I had to look it up. I was like, how do you say that? Gergich. He's a Croatian American guy, and so the spelling of his name's a little funky, and so that's why it's difficult to figure out how to pronounce it exactly. But then he ended up opening Gergich Hill's cellar. Gergich Hill's cellar.
Still exists today?
Yes, yeah, and you recognize the label when you see it, and I bet you've looked at the label and said, I don't know how to say that.
Maybe, right? And then you said the Mexican-American guy that Gustavo in the movie, he works for Gergich.
So yeah, he was not fired. None of that nasty stuff went down.
Which is
He
good to
was,
know.
yeah, because I didn't really like that.
No.
And then, especially, I really like him from 6 Feet Under, the actor, and so I was like, that's not nice to do to him. But so he actually left on his own accord. Things were very nice, and he just went and worked with Mike. And then in '96, he finally opened his own winery, Gustavo Wines.
Gustavo Wines.
So
I'm sure all three are amazing. Chateau Montelena is still amazing, so I'm sure. And obviously, guys with that kind of passion, it's gonna be amazing.
Absolutely. So a little bit about Chardonnay the Grape.
Okay, go for it.
So it's the most popular white grape on the planet. It's planted the most and asked for by consumers the most.
Okay.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. There's so many grapes and there's fads, and I would have thought that by now Sauvignon Blanc would have closed that gap, but
that's the second most.
Yeah.
And worldwide, Sauvignon Blanc, I tended to like Sauvignon Blancs better, maybe. Well, outside of France, I like Sauvignon Blancs better.
Yeah.
In France, Chardonnay just rules. It's just so good.
And so it's originally
in all their
from
different
Burgundy.
regions. Yeah, it's originally from Burgundy, which includes all the way up to Chablis. It's the main ingredient in Blanc de Blanc.
Yes, and so then you go into
Champagne.
Champagne, and it's
and then it's grown all up and down the Loire. And then of course you've got your warmer weather ones that come out of southern France, the Midi and all that, and
But that's kind of more recent,
yeah,
quote unquote recent,
right.
Recent times in France. So that's really you got to put that in context,
right?
But
answer to our Central Valley wines,
right? Well, and then I found a quote that I thought was really pretty cool because it does tend to be a little more full-bodied as most of its representation. And David Ramey, so Ramey Wines, famous guy. You'd recognize the name,
No, I'm just saying people probably don't recognize necessarily.
Well, maybe they do.
Okay. What about Ramey Wines?
Jeez.
David Ramey?
Pain in my ass. So David Ramey has this great quote where he said that Chardonnay is the red wine of whites because of the barrel aging and the malolactic fermentation. And I thought that was a really good thing to point out.
Yeah. That
is why this wine or this grape tends to be so different than any of the other white wine grapes. And
massively versatile is actually... That's the reason it's so widely planted too, because it can grow in lots of regions, but it also shows differently. So a cool weather Chardonnay is so different than a warm weather Chardonnay.
Absolutely.
Barrel age is so different than non-barrel age. Mallow is so different than non-mallow. And
It's almost like it can showcase the winemaker.
Yeah, the winemaker in the region really, really well.
Yeah.
With Chardonnay in general, whereas other whites just don't have that versatility, and so therefore it's a narrower spectrum. Therefore, you get less popularity overall.
Yeah. All right. So there's your
Chardonnay
thing about Chardonnay.
Chardonnay tip.
Folks. He's starting to fall down. Okay. So we do have some questions as always. And the first one is, have you ever had a wine that had bottle shock like in the movie? Because in the movie, the wine at one point turns brown in the bottle, tastes great, is fine, but the color changes and then it goes back.
I had never heard of it before the movie. I have never seen it myself. Apparently it is a thing though.
Apparently. But also, there is other bottle shock.
Yeah.
Not just color.
Exactly. They were referring to a few different things.
Yeah, they kind of glommed everything together. Right?
Every bottle goes through a shock when you cork it. When you bottle it and cork it, it's just all jumbled up, and it takes a couple weeks to a handful of months to become one cohesive voice again.
I like to describe it as when it's in a barrel or a tank, it's with its family, and then it's separated out into a bottle, and it gets homesick. And it's sad and lonely.
Aww.
And then it, like your first year of college, and then you mature and you get a grip, and then you are better for it.
Basically, the process there, it's a little bit of an unknown, but they really think it's because of dissolved oxygen in the wine. During bottling and the days before bottling, it just has so many. It gets one last filtering and one and then when it gets in the bottle itself, it's all jumbled and and then turned upside down and this way. It just gets moved a bunch of times, and it just it's hard on a wine for a second. But once it calms down in the bottle, it's better. You get a very slight amount of bottle shock if you have wine shipped to you. You shouldn't open it that day, and maybe or give it a week would be best if you can.
That does not happen.
Which never happens. But,
it arrives at our house, and I'm like, woohoo!
Popping corks immediately. But ideally, that's what you would do. But it's okay. I mean,
and then Pinot Noir is notorious for having late bottle shock, where it's okay for the first little bit, and then the bottle shock can come in a couple
6 months.
weeks. Yeah, or 6 months. That's another one of those wonderful things about how weird Pinot is, but that's a different show. All right, so the next question. How do you feel about wine in alternative packaging, cans and boxes and that kind of stuff?
I'm all for it. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's great. I think we need, that's part of the snob stigma that we need to lose in the wine world. Just so that everyone's comfortable with wine, and if somebody wants to drink it with a can, great. If somebody wants to drink it out of a box, great.
Well, and more really well done wines are being put in these vessels.
Exactly. So that's where I think I tend to steer away from the weird market, the weird things myself, because they're not putting that great a wine into them as often. But we've been doing kegs for,
I was just gonna say, as a matter
5 years
of fact,
or something, and that brings literally half of the cost of our bottle of wine is half of it's wine and half of it's the packaging. So in a keg, which is reusable, we have zero cost on that. It costs us half as much, so we can sell our wines for almost half the price, half the bottle price in a keg. So
and it doesn't go bad.
And it doesn't go bad.
So that's phenomenal. And that's the same sort of thing that's happening in your boxed wine.
Exactly.
I was going to say in your box.
Similar, but it's similar, but that's a bag that doesn't have any air in it, and as you pour the wine out, the bag just shrinks, so it never has any air in it. So That's a great way. That's an amazing. You can buy 5 bottles, and the packaging is way cheaper.
And there's
but non-recyclable.
The biggest
usually.
place that is selling high dollar wines in that format are coming out of Australia. So that's kind of a specific to look for.
Yeah.
There are some areas of France that are also doing it, have been doing it, but it's a little dicey. You do have to kind of maybe do a little bit of research on what you're getting. And then the cans are super popular. So you see just about any range of...
I mean, it's good for all kinds of stuff. Like that's...
Oh, it's going to be great.
Beer is portable because you could have it in a can, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the packaging doesn't weigh anything. So it's just the weight of the liquid itself inside. And
no sunlight can reach it too, so it's protected that way.
Exactly. So then, I mean, I think they're great, and actually, we're looking forward to doing cans at some point here. Big news, but I can't tell you yet.
Kinda, sorta, just did. Okay, so the third question. So anyway, yes, we're fans of great wine in any packaging. It should just be well made. That's the idea. Okay, so hello, sir.
I'm not paying attention to you.
The third question is, would you ever want to work for another winery?
I would love the opportunity to do that, actually. At this point, we're still doing family vacations, but we've only got, a couple more years, and our daughter might be in college.
So, is this like at the same time, like doing, you're just going to sell this and go and work somewhere else?
No.
So I think that's what the question's trying to get at, right?
To work for somebody else?
Yeah, do you want to work at another winery? Like, is there another winery that you want to work at? I think what you're talking about is like going and doing a crush with another winery.
Right. Do like a 2-month or 3-month internship with them
with Chateau Montelena, for example.
I would probably choose somebody in the Southern Hemisphere so I could do it in the spring, as part of a greater vacation or something like that. If civil war breaks out in the U.S., say, I wouldn't mind. I would flee the country quick and go work for somebody else somewhere else.
There's some amazing wineries up in Canada.
Canada, but that's pretty close. I don't know.
You want to get further?
I think I want to get further.
Okay.
I think I would choose to go further. Well, I mean, if there's a war going on next door.
Well, yeah, I guess.
And Canada's going to be roped into it somehow. I was just trying to think of the disaster scenario.
Okay, cutting him off. All right. Well, I personally often threaten Jesse to go work for another winery when I don't like his attitude. And I tell him,
you can hang out with the murder hornets up in BC.
I'm just going to quit and take my talents elsewhere if you don't appreciate it. So, I think we're open to it.
I would love to work for somebody else. The headaches of owning your own business, there's so much time that I spend not winemaking, just doing like all kinds of other stuff that I'm not,
Yeah.
Oh, and stressing about it. I know if I go work for somebody else, they're going to be like, hey, dude, take out the garbage too. And I'm going to say, oh, darn it, clean the mouse traps. Oh, damn it. That's what I did back in Dixon, But
But you aren't overseeing things and problem solving.
I'm not worried about it, I don't have to think about the mouse traps until they tell me about the mouse traps,
Except that when we did go to Chateau Montelena and meet with that winemaker, he complained, which I guess I shouldn't say that, but he mentioned that being able to have free form creative ability in the cellar was one of the things that he had really been seeking, because
we were jealous of each other actually in lots of ways.
Yeah.
So I do understand that as well, and I know that would get to me. It's amazing to be able to do what we want, Chris and I, down there, just what do you think? This, that, what?
And you're tasting,
cool.
and then you make a decision based on that, not waiting to have somebody come in and oversee it and agree with you or not, or interesting. Anyway, the fourth question is, what will the smoke in California do to the wines produced from them?
Oh.
So this is a couple of years that these wineries have been hard hit by these fires, and this year in particular, the fires came earlier, and so you've got smoke taint. I mean, they're talking about having a lot of ash, not just the heat, not just the smoke from nearby, but tons of ash sitting on the grapes, and most of them are not able to use them.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you can't, if they've got actual ash on there. I mean, the skin's kind of, you know how it has that when you rub a grape, you can see that it's shiny, but the opaqueness before you rubbed it, that's all the environment. That's dust, that's yeast, and in this case, ash. And so if you have tons of it on there, and it's like a bunch of ash on there, like you're gonna taste that like crazy. If it rained real good 3 or 4 times, or even twice or whatever, and got all of it out of the air and all the stuff, then maybe you just have smoke taint from like what the plant absorbed itself, and it would be mild and okay.
But there's also the heat factor.
But it's been
They're
hot.
surrounded by this intense. Not only was the temperature hot,
I can't remember.
but then the fire heat.
What was the vintage? They had a vintage a couple years ago that was like super smoky, and for certain vineyards, of course. It's not everybody, it just depends on where the fire is, who's downwind of the fire, as it's going on right before, as they're trying to pick and crush.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a winery that is making brandy.
Yeah.
They just said,
Good
they're
call.
cutting their losses.
Yeah. Pick the grapes.
I think it's like Hooper Winery. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name.
Get
but
the grapes
it's in
picked,
Napa.
fermented, distill it, and then you got brandy. And brandy likes a little smoke.
Exactly.
And by the time you just
and then it's not
ferment
a
it
total loss.
and then distill it, it's gonna that smoke will be so minuscule, and then you add the smoke from the char on your barrel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
there's a lot of wineries not gonna pick anything this year.
Yeah.
And
they're just saying it's a total loss.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not all of Northern California, but it's this is as bad as it's ever been, I think, for these guys.
Yeah. Well, we had an amazing anniversary dinner last night from catered from Southeast by Southwest. Thank you so much. It was a
that was awesome.
Incredible 4-course meal that I could just pick up and then have here in our house, which saved us from having to cook, which was super cool. And we paired it with a bubbly from Decoy and the Pinot from
McHenry.
Yeah, which did just recently burn down.
Yep.
So, there's that.
And that was a 2013 Pinot Noir from McHenry, and it was amazing.
And it was an incredible pairing, and really sad that, these wineries are suffering, and we're going to have vintages lost, and we're going to, have to really try to support them as they try to come back up. But anyway, there is a lot happening with that. So, fifth question. This one's for me.
Hey, for you.
What have you learned from judging at all of those international competitions? And I would like to say that I learned like all kinds of really cool things.
She didn't learn anything. She doesn't listen. She never listens to me. There's no way she's listening to somebody else either. She knows it all.
Oh, smart ass. I was gonna say what I've learned is that
Wrong.
What a punk. That I get the jitters really bad.
Oh yeah, you do. That's crazy. It's so wild.
And I don't know why.
She's like gets all worried that she doesn't know how to taste wine, and I'm like, oh my gosh! Every time you get in there, by the end of the first day, but definitely by the end of the second day, everyone's like bowing at her feet, like, oh my gosh, how do you do it? But going in almost every time, she's really nervous, unless she's been there several times and she's got some friends in the room. Then she's like, okay. But every time it's a new competition, she just
panic attack. It's terrible.
I don't see you in that like that in any other situation. It's pretty wild.
And it does take, once I'm there, I do focus and I shut everything out and I just do my job. And it does seem to work out where, people do take note and, it ends up being really a good experience. But I leave really elevated and like excited, but every single time I go in like just petrified. As far as just tasting that many wines, it sounds like a really good time, but actually it is really, really difficult. You spit the entire time, your teeth like hurt. I actually have a whole regimen of different toothpastes that I have to use before and after tasting. I know it sounds like, oh, poor baby, but there's some difficulty to it. On the other hand, I also have been introduced to some really weird, awesome grapes, and also being able to taste thousands and thousands of Chardonnays from all over the world, or even these weird, strange places, and or Pinots, or you name it. So I have gotten to taste some really cool stuff, and I've learned a lot because it's so rare that you get to taste thousands and thousands of
So you
wines.
spit when you taste thousands of Pinots?
Oh, no. Well, if you're tasting thousands of Pinots you can't swallow, what a nightmare.
That sounds like a mess, yeah. Good point.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, guys.
All right. I was going to do a check-in, but clearly we don't need that. I just want to alert you that...
I'm sorry, that was horrible.
that we are not having our Halloween party. Of course, with COVID, it's just a hot mess. So we are doing a virtual masquerade contest.
Oh, masquerade.
Yes.
I get it now.
I have to speak like that or he misses it.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that you will design your COVID-friendly mask, right? Or anti-friendly. Because it's not COVID.
COVID safe.
COVID safe. So it should cover the nose and mouth as protocols are intact, but go nuts. Get really creative.
Design your own mask competition?
Halloween, yeah. So the most creative,
cool.
the most original, and the scariest are the three categories. So 3 winners, and those winners are going to get 2 bottles of wine. Those that are local can come pick them up if they win. Those that live anywhere else in the USA, except for Alaska and Hawaii. Sorry, guys, we can't ship there.
Continental US.
Then we'll ship it to you. So everybody gets to participate, which is actually pretty cool. So you're going to send us or post on social media and tag us on Facebook or Instagram the picture on the 30th and the 31st. So it's those 2 days that you have to enter. And then we will announce the winner on the 1st. I think it's going to be really fun.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. That's going to be fun. That is going to be fun.
Something kind of different. And if you guys are not comfortable with how to, I don't know, you can show up. You can have some of our drink specials that if you come in costume, you get half price on beer and wine by the glass on those 2 days. And our staff will actually take a picture of your fabulous mask and post it to our page so that you can enter as well. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible.
Nice.
Little kids can still trick or treat. That's always been a big thing for us. However, they need to maintain, all the stuff. So come with your kids so that they stand 6 feet from the other person. And, we got to do that. I'm sorry. And then we'll give them a goodie bag that's already been filled so that you're minimizing touch.
All right.
Now, before we go, we have a special guest next week.
Oh, yeah?
We do. I like to surprise you. It is Jeff Eccles from We Like Drinking podcast.
Jeff Eccles.
Yay!
I know that guy.
I know. So if you are looking for entertainment, Jeff Eccles and his band of smartasses.
right?
John and the other Jeff. It is a fantastic podcast where they explore the world of wines and booze and
beer.
And beer.
They're
And
kind of two wine guys and one beer guy.
they focus on that, but then they've been doing some really cool
Yeah.
booze related, and they have special guests on. And we happen to have been the special guests on episode 146. So if you go to welikedrinking.com and look up 146, you can see and listen to if it was recorded. So it was a lot of fun, and we were interviewed. It was fantastic, but we've had the luck of being on many of their episodes, and it's going to be fun to return the favor, have them on and talk to them about how Jeff started this phenomenal podcast, which is going to be airing its 300th.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And you know, all they do is just drink. Go figure with the name, but they just sit around drinking and they talk about it a little bit, but mostly give each other a hard time. And
it's a lot of fun. And the wines for next week are going to be our Petit Verdot, and I'm going to make you pull a barrel sample.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So that we can compare those.
Okay.
Talk about that. So tune in next week. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to send us your questions, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers, you guys.